Louie is live.
I see
Louie's
that.
live.
Louie, Louie, your face is a mess. This is Louie L'Amour. He's 17 human years old, which means he's something like 120 or something in terms of dog years. When I'm that old in human years, I hope I look half as good. Yes.
I'm glad Corey
Welcome,
showed
Corey.
up.
Corey.
Hello.
I was
Hello,
like, it's
Corey.
26 minutes. There's nobody in here. Where is everyone?
26 minutes.
Well, it's like
We're already
4
live.
minutes till we're live. Oh, are we? Are we
Yeah,
actually
we
live?
are.
I heard you
welcome
say
to the
live.
pre-show
I didn't think we were
Banter,
actually live. I thought
You
you were
didn't
just
see the
joking.
countdown?
I
You
didn't. I was over messing with. I was scraping wisdom from news articles.
I'm working on something to scrape the Discord and just pull a list of URLs and group them into the broad categories. Not the notables, but things like what relates to Google, what relates to breaches, that sort of stuff.
Hey, Alex, we're live. Just heads up.
Cool.
Yeah. I already made that mistake. I'll
It
probably
looks
be
good
on
on
the
you,
news now.
Wade.
Yes, Kelly, it's really me. I'm the Cybrarian is a simulation today. Oh, okay. You want to go away? All right. Hey,
If this is a
great.
simulation, I am terrified for whatever comes next.
I'm not that scary, am I?
A simulation of that quality, you know, I've always told myself I could detect a simulation, right? But obviously that's what my brain's programmed to think since we're all in a simulation. So
It could be worse.
It
least I
probably
hope it
is.
is.
It probably is worse outside the simulation. This whole thing is like just a training grounds and stuff. So
I mean,
you get all
allow
those,
me
like,
to just
practices and
ruin.
experiences for when you
Allow,
escape the
okay,
Matrix.
hold on. Let me just ruin the entire movie, The Matrix, for everyone
Go for
because it makes. Okay, can we talk about something? It makes no sense to use humans as a heat source. We're not a
No,
heat
no,
source.
no.
We consume energy. We don't generate energy. Like it's thermodynamics. Like it doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense.
I did
I'm with
see
you.
there was a good post on like Reddit the other day where it was like maybe the 90s was the pinnacle of human technology, right? Like technology was just enough where everything was cool, everything was all right, life was easy, but it wasn't overall consuming. Like the internet wasn't completely like devouring us. It's like, that's a good point. Like maybe I need to go back.
Yeah, I don't know. Video killed the radio star. Internet killed the video star. AI killed the internet star. Maybe I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe.
Oh, the humanity. Oh, the humanity.
Well, it was interesting. Daniel Meisler made a point recently on his newsletter that when a new technology comes out, people use the new technology, applying it to old things. So like when television first came out, basically all they did was televise radio shows. And then it took a while to figure it out. So we're kind of in that same stage with the whole LLM generative AI thing. We're applying it in we're basically using LLMs a lot like we use a Google search. We haven't fully figured out how to use it in its own right, but
Or maybe the emperor has no clothes and it's all bullshit and we're just wasting money.
that's a possibility too.
I don't know. It writes Python code pretty quickly.
Real good sometimes.
It's not very good, but it's very quick. It's faster than
Super simple at least.
Googling.
Good hits and bad misses. When
Yeah,
it's
but
good,
that's
it's
all
very,
of
very
programming.
good.
That's for me. Programming is a matter of taking a shotgun, pointing at the wall, and then hanging a picture in front of it.
And that's pretty much what developers do even when they're writing code from scratch.
I saw this thing. I don't know if it's true, but apparently Microsoft did some study where they like analyzed the effectiveness of developers, and basically the like rule that they came up with is that like an A tier, or like the best developers, are like 10 times more effective and efficient than like the B tier. it's like basically the top X% of developers are like the ones who get all the work done, and everyone else is just like trying. And I'm definitely in the trying section. So
What is it like? 20% of people do 80% of the work, something like that.
yeah, there's
Right,
probably
right.
a law for that.
There's
My favorite one is Sturgeon's law. 80% of everything is crap, or maybe 90%.
Developers.
I think it's time for the finger.
Roll the finger. 90% of everything is crap. So will this podcast be. Yoda.
All right, I guess we can do it. 3, 2. Oh, there's the clock.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
the clock. It's perfect.
All right, the clock's telling us to go.
Hello and welcome to Talkin Bout News. It's June 10th, 2024, and you're listening to our podcast, which is not written by AI, but will be in the near future.
That's probably
No one
how
has
it
any
will end.
complaints about that? No one has any reactions. Everyone's like, yeah, that's fine.
It's probably true. Yeah.
We'll get it.
that's
Yeah, we'll get
accurate.
into it for
Yeah.
like AI being just horrible. I think there's a story
Well-
that's going to feature that.
This week we have a clever simulation of Bronwyn, which may or may not be AI. I said earlier, if it was AI, I'm terrified of whatever comes next because it looks and sounds just like her. Oh my gosh, it even knows her mannerisms. It's scary.
It's
We've
trained
got
well.
Wade, regular. He's going through logs.
Mustache
Although some-
fully there.
That's
Some
right.
say he's buried in logs, not wading through them.
Buried in. That's probably more accurate than wading through them, to tell you the truth. But it's not a clever pun.
We've got Hal here with his radio voice. He's going to lull us all into a sense of false security and then rip our hopes and dreams out of our Linux kernels.
It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit.
But your voice makes me feel so comfortable with all
I
being
know.
bullshit.
Right? I know.
Yeah. We've got Alex coming from an undisclosed location, which appears to be David Harbour's house. If you've seen that Architectural Digest tour of his house, that's exactly what that looks like.
Yeah, a little bit. I think his shelves are a little more level than mine are.
Mm. Yeah, it definitely doesn't look like a green screen or
They're-
anything.
Yeah, they're a little wavy. Yeah.
It's an optical illusion, all right? He has it that way, so
You're
You
just
get
all on
tricked out.
acid.
Yeah, that's definitely what it is. Meanwhile, Ryan actually painted his walls into a green screen for some reason.
It's the green room. I live in the green room.
Ah,
with the green
with the
t-shirt
green
on.
shirt.
Yeah.
You could
Yes.
just be a hovering head if you had if you had done it properly. You could just be a hovering head.
It's not easy.
yeah,
to
join
do.
us in
I'm an
Discord.
amateur.
Join us in Discord. Come hang out. We're going to talk about the news. I feel like this week's articles are, let's talk about the Copilot Plus PCs. We got to talk about that. 0 days in TikTok. I guess maybe some
Ransomware
stuff
in
about
London.
Of course, you got to throw ransomware in there. And then a rare example where I think we should start. The rampant speculation that I made on the show at least 2 weeks ago has been borne out to be almost entirely true by Mandiant today. This is that article UNC 5537, Ryan. It's
That helps me a lot.
Which what?
yeah. Well,
It's the last article in the top news. I threw it in there,
Oh, okay, there
right?
we go.
I never know which like bookmark
Oh,
when you're putting
this
stuff in
I know
Notion,
we
which
need to,
one's
someone
right.
needs to. So UNC 5537. I'm assuming this is like the threat actor name. We need to come up with better. I like the pandas and the bears
How
and
dare you.
eagles, or I don't know. I like that better. But anyway, UNC 5537. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, or I don't know. Time is irrelevant. But this is a threat actor that went after Snowflake data. Now, there was some data posted on raid forums or breach forums or whatever we're calling it, and they basically said, I have tons of data. You could buy it for 150 grand or 50 grand, some high number. But basically, Mandiant today published an investigation on what exactly this was, and it pretty much confirms what I speculated, which was that it's information stealer malware going after both Snowflake employees and also customers' environments. They made a very politically incorrect tool name, which is in this article, and you can go find it for yourself. But basically, the purpose of this tool is to extract data from Snowflake instances. Now, as you'd imagine, Snowflake, they actually point to it in the article, but a wide variety of different parties have access to Snowflake. So there's the article section right there, contractor accounts. As I speculated, contractors engage with Snowflake quite a bit, and they utilize personal or non-monitored laptops, exacerbating that initial access vector. So it's pretty much what I predicted. I guess turns out sometimes when
Hey,
you
you've done
guess,
this
you get it right.
before.
Slam dunk.
Yeah. So I guess we don't have a whole lot of more details on what data was exposed. I think it's going to come down to each individual company to disclose their own breach. But Mandiant is tracking it. I'm sure they're calling people up and saying, hey, have you rolled these credentials recently? Because we have bad news for you.
Without calling out any vendors, what's your best way to defend against this type of stuff?
All right.
I'm gonna ask you.
Well, I'm going to call out some vendors.
All right.
No, I mean, okay, so essentially, I do recommend, I mean, it's kind of there's a few companies that do a really good job. Flare is one of them, and also SpyCloud is another one. You can also set up your own system, which we did, but I can tell you that gathering data from the dark web is a fool's errand, and I regret ever doing it. But
not fun, not easy, not
yeah, essentially the ecosystem here is people gather these logs, they post the data into Telegram chats, forums, wherever they try to sell it. They sell access to their botnets, basically, which are just collections of stealers running and collecting their data. And then, it's repackaged, it's sold. It's the classic threat actor ecosystem of, I want to do the least amount of work for the most amount of profit. But yeah, check out Flare or SpyCloud if you're worried about this. You can also, I guess, Wade, you mentioned you might have some kind of like traditional ways of detecting this kind of abuse.
Well, I was going to ask you, so they're scraping creds from things, right? Usually. Would you say a majority of the creds that they're gathering are just from the browser, or do you think they're from other locations as well?
It's mostly the browser. I will say some of the more complex stealers can also grab files off of like the desktop or documents or other things. So it can grab files out of, it can grab passwords and files that are in text-based formats. Okay. Obviously, if it grabs a KeyPass database, it's not going to be able to do anything with it. But I would say most of it is from the browser, like basically DP API. Okay. And it is being like kind of addressed. Google Chrome recently published some, I forget what it was called. It's like browser integrity, data integrity protections or something where, so currently on Windows, for anyone that doesn't know this, because this has somehow been this way for like 10 years almost, but essentially browsers store sensitive data, whether it's history, credentials, whatever it is. That data is encrypted, which is great. It's in a SQLite database, but it's encrypted. And guess where the encryption key is stored? The Data Protection API or DP API. Now, for anyone on Windows that knows exploiting Windows, the DP API is easily, you can just query values out of it as a non-privileged user. So essentially, the encryption key is stored in a way that's easily accessible by the user, so it's pointless, and that's how the credentials get stolen. So that's why.
And this is even before recall, right?
Well, let's not get on that yet. All right. We don't need to burn down. Let me at least talk about. So this is a pretty easily detectable thing. Not a lot of things touch all of these sensitive file locations inside your browser. So usually you can build some type of detection based on what's querying all these files. So I believe I even have the MITRE attack for this is T1555.003 credentials from web browser. So I for one do not have. I don't save any creds in my browser. I have a password manager, right? Which honestly, not a lot of people use, and more people should. But if you are saving them in there, like Corey was saying, they're easily extractable. And it's also easy to actually just detect what is actually stealing those files or any of the other files that your browser touches. The one thing you do have to think about is multiple users are going to use different browsers. Not everyone is going to use Chrome. So you're going to have to try to look this up for Edge, or maybe if you guys actually do allow Firefox or Brave or something like that, and just build out one decent detection for all three, which is what I've done in the past. Just go to Sigma, look up that MITRE attack ID, and it shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, so one thing to keep in mind, and the way that this actually gets exploited in the real world is basically this software, the information stealers, are very detectable on the endpoint. Like these, I've never seen an example where the software runs on a managed computer, like with EDR or even Defender. And they basically, this software is distributed with cracked or pirated software typically. So I've seen many screenshots of info stealers. Of course, they grab a screenshot when they run. And the screenshot is a text file that the person has opened up that says, step 1, disable your AV. Step 2, run this. So, basically...
Wow.
So, but again, this is where the ecosystem works, because let's say I'm a contractor. I'm working in as a totally non-related party. I don't have a computer for this person that I'm contracting for, and I'm just using my own Windows desktop. And I've run into a scenario where I need to have, a VPN, and for some reason I'm not willing to spend $5 on a VPN. So I go on Google and I type free VPN, and then I run the first executable. It gets nuked by my antivirus, so I obviously whitelist it in my antivirus or disable my antivirus, and then I run it again, and my VPN works, and nothing else happens until a month later when someone logs into my Snowflake and steals all the data out of it. But yeah, I mean, that's the tricky part, is organizations typically don't have control of the computers that this software runs on. So that's basically why but you can detect it on the usage side too. You can try, obviously require MFA. That fixes it.
Also, like for the compromised creds, like having some sort of threat intelligence with regards to that. So,
that's where Flare
when
comes in,
Snowflake
or something like that.
So Snowflake, had the information that they weren't officially breached by contacting both Mandy and CrowdStrike to state that, and it again kind of puts it shows that there's shared responsibility when you use these cloud services. Is that I think still cloud, and then now like AI enabled cloud of Snowflake, as a couple of combine a couple of buzzwords together. People will use it, buy it, and go, all of the security is done on their end, right? Like I just use something, especially if it's free. Like if you get a free trial for Snowflake and you can just upload data, a lot of people did, and then they go, well, the security responsibility is all you, right? Not me.
Yeah.
Totally. So yeah, the MFA, and then some threat intel on it, and then I guess beyond this lesson is, hey, if you're doing cloud stuff or you're doing AI stuff, like some of the security responsibility is still yours.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, that's just like we talked about it on the news, but it happened to 23andMe where exact same attack happened. Someone got into all these consumer accounts that it wasn't like a 23andMe employee was breached. It was just a bunch of consumer accounts, and then they stole a bunch of data and were like, hey, you're breached, and they were like, no, it's the consumer's fault. And it's like, that didn't go super well. You can see their stock price. They're about to be delisted off of the NASDAQ.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah.
That's the first time I've heard of a breach and them get to hit that bad.
They're they're probably tanking for their own reasons, completely unrelated to the breach. But the concept is every cloud provider or any any company that has consumer accounts is responsible for protecting them. It makes no sense to be like, nah, you guys are on your own. Good luck. Definitely use a secure password. And then, of course, you go to the website, you like reset your password. It's like maximum 16 characters or whatever. And you're like,
I want to go grab the 23andMe data set. I want to know like the average age of their user. Like that.
Oh, it's like 60 plus.
Right? Yeah. Like it's not going to be the people who wouldn't think about security at all, who are just like, password is my password.
Yes, correct. Yeah, and I get it. Yeah.
If you were concerned about security, you wouldn't really do 23andMe because you're kind of like, let me take all of this like unique data that I cannot change no matter how many microwaves that I stick my head into. I cannot change this.
Correct.
Let me take this information and give it to somebody else on the internet and then have it to where others can kind of connect into and look at it and see if they're related and then harass you over email. Sure, let's do that. And so you have anybody that has any, small amount of security awareness is going to go, yeah, I don't want to do that.
Totally.
Just wait a couple decades. They'll have, you'll be able to get like CRISPR editing on your genes.
Like 3D printer, but for your own genes.
Yep.
I'm literally reading that book right now.
All right,
Daniel Suarez.
Let's take that segue that Bronwyn so tantalizingly dropped in. Let's talk about Copilot Plus PCs.
What?
Does everyone know what these
Public
are?
relations cluster
I have
for
Copilot.
Microsoft.
I don't have Copilot Plus PC. Do I want it? There you go.
I
Should
mean,
install it right
so
now?
Microsoft
Bronwyn,
is
explain
this-
what this is. Yeah,
Okay,
explain what a
so-
Copilot Plus PC is.
Well, all right.
Which news article is it first?
Well, there's multiples.
there's
Basically,
like
just
3 or
yeah.
4, all having to do with Recall. Microsoft, in its whatever, has decided that it's going to make a PC that has Copilot built into it at a very intimate functional level. And on top of that, they're adding in this feature called Recall that is going to record everything that you do. And now, I don't know if this was ever passed through any type of security scrutiny, because it sure doesn't seem like it. And there are already functional proofs of concept.
Listen,
for
it's
being able to
protected by
scrape it.
DPAPI. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's protected.
So, yeah, and of course they have backpedaled, and that was
Yes.
the article. So they've backpedaled, saying we'll make it opt-in. It's like, really? You didn't think that
I mean,
that
it
would be a
keeps-
good thing to begin with?
It keeps getting deeper. I mean, you're now hearing allegations from internal to Microsoft that it was deliberately kind of a skunkworks project that was where they literally avoided any sort of internal auditing or any kind of oversight. And those allegations haven't been corroborated, but you got internal sources at Microsoft saying that they're pretty pissed off about the way this whole project was handled, and the whole thing is turning into like a real black eye for Microsoft from a PR standpoint, from obviously from a privacy standpoint. It just makes them look like profoundly out of touch.
Is this
not a good look?
Okay, so
That
we
sounds- Go ahead.
go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, is this like the straw that breaks the camel's back on the whole, like, the average person doesn't care about privacy thing? Because I feel like we've many times observed on the show, and we talked about it 5 minutes ago, that the target user for this might not be us, right? It might be just the average person who, most people, if you ask them about privacy or care about privacy, they say, oh, well, I have nothing to hide, so I don't care. Is this, like, from our perspective, this is terrible from a privacy perspective. My question is this the thing that, like, someone in Best Buy would be like, that sounds kind of creepy? Or is it just like, oh, whatever? Like, I'm curious how many people would actually care?
Let me call my dad real quick. Let's see what he
Yeah,
says.
I don't.
I mean, if they know about it, this is making a lot of noise in our echo chamber, but I'm not sure that noise is getting outside. So
I
How
feel
I know
like but the computer taking screenshots every 5 seconds, like the Microsoft CEO kind of announced this basically on YouTube. From my perspective, it was kind of just like that, which tracks with it being a skunkworks project. He was like, here's the new PCs and here's what they do. And in the demo, he basically is like, okay, so it screenshots every 5 seconds. It's supposed to be on device. That's what the Copilot Plus thing is an on device. It's like a Qualcomm chip that does whatever machine learning stuff it does. If you, let's say, here's the hypothetical. If you were just browsing the web and then later you're like, oh, when did I see that potato? And then you just go and recall and search for potato. It'll like show you all the times that you saw a potato in the last, however long it can recall, which I feel like for most people would be too creepy, right? Like, is that not like, where does this end?
But there are a lot of people that would want that sort of feature, being like, oh yeah, like what? It's like they might sit there and say, it's like, well, what was that thing that Corey had on a screen behind him that one time? And you just kind of like search for like all of the screenshots where they were watching YouTube and you were in the back, and they go, oh, okay, well that's this thing, I can find it. Or
it's kind of cool.
You had it's like, oh, I saw this one.
When
like,
was
really
the
cool
last time
recipe
I was
one
looking up latex paint? Here, let me type in latex.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Okay, so this brings up a great example of like, so where does it, this is like a great idea if you just assume everyone has good intentions, nothing bad, like no one's ever going to do anything bad, no one's ever going to look at anything bad or have to delete their browser history or do
can we just set a history?
Or get an e-discovery request.
It's just like browser history, right? You just need a clear all button and you just hit it once a week, no matter what. Like, I don't think I looked at anything bad, but just in case.
We talk about guardrails. What is the guardrails? Can it be like, show me all the butts? Like, where does it, how does this work? Like, I can't imagine this actually, it just seems creepy. Like, even to the normal people, I feel like it just seems really creepy, but I don't know. I guess survey your families and get back to us in Discord about whether they think AI capturing images of their screen every 5 seconds is creepy or not.
Okay, well,
it's horrible. Or go ahead, Ferd.
There's several points here. One, we are in our own echo chamber. We know that this stuff is bad news for a whole bunch of reasons. But two, and this is something that as I get older and I get more and more salt versus pepper, there are fewer and fewer people who actually remember what privacy is. I mean, how many of the main users of all these technologies grew up in a goldfish bowl? They've always had the internet. They've always had social media. They've always had all of this attention theoretically focused on them, or at least had no shelter, where the norm is everything's exposed as opposed to only sharing what you want to share. It's a paradigm shift. I'm not saying
Alex,
right, wrong. It's a paradigm shift.
Yes. I mean, I think I will say, like, I do think that the user base for Windows computers is effectively like the global population. Like not really, but obviously there's a people who are not going to have computers, or people that will go straight to phones and will skip the entire desktop experience. But I feel like, the average random family member isn't on a Mac or Linux. They're on Windows. Like, they're on like the default computer that you go to Best Buy and you're like, I need to read my email. And they're like, here you go. I still feel like they would maybe push back on this and just be like, they might not know, but I feel like, I guess it depends on the user experience, how intrusive it is. It'd be really creepy though if, you were searching something and then it was like, hey, you looked at this, especially with like a shared computer. I don't know. It just seems like seems like you could get people into trouble a lot.
Okay. In fairness, just as a microcosm example, years ago, when I was still in the dating scene, I met a gentleman and we seemed to get along, and I looked up at his Facebook profile. And I said to him at first, it's like, you really should probably lock this down a little bit. And he says, oh, no, I have nothing to hide. Famous last words. So then later on in a text conversation, I said, your kid's really cute. And boom, his attitude changed. He dropped me like a hot potato. And this guy was a normal person. He wasn't a geek. He wasn't in cybersecurity. He had no idea. I wasn't in cybersecurity at this time. But I knew OSINT, even though I didn't know that's what it was called, and I knew how to find things out about people because I had been using the internet for so long. And it wasn't until I shone a spotlight on how exposed he was that he realized, oh shit.
Right. So it's not
and I feel like Copilot,
oh god.
Copilot's going to be doing that all the time. Can you imagine an example of like a family computer with this? You're going to be like,
who's going to
show me all the
right?
You're going to search.
It's not going to be until Microsoft shames me for my bad Minesweeper score.
Okay, but here's how most people use their computers. They find the first search box they can find, and they type whatever they're looking for in there. That's how people use computers. Assuming that gets integrated into Copilot Plus, which it will, someone could go in there and search for potato recipe, and they'll be like, here's all the images of potatoes you were looking at. And it's just like, who's not going to be like, ooh, what are all these potatoes that my, kid / spouse / partner / whoever was looking at? I don't know. It just seems like a recipe for a privacy disaster. But
and then also for like just the domestic abuse situations, you have all these websites that are set up. They even have like this quick exit button for if you are in a domestic abuse relationship and you're trying to research ways to get out, well, now like it has those screenshots like that. Like it's not too far fetched to imagine like the headline of like somebody gets killed because they were trying to get out of a domestic abuse relationship. Their spouse searched through Recall, saw what they were looking at, and then it escalates from there.
Yeah,
That's
that was
terrifying.
actually one of the first objections that was raised among the community of folks who, were dealing with people in situations like that. It's an absolute abuser's paradise. They don't even have to install stalkerware because the operating system's your stalkerware.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it will analyze exactly what happened, like, for you. Not only will it like let you stalk, you can just be like, summarize what was looked at in the last day. Like, it's so creepy.
The other thing to think about here is, you can say, like, I would never use a PC with that Copilot crap installed on it, and that's probably true. But remember, if the people you are communicating with are running a PC with this crap on it, it's taking screenshots of like your chats with that person and your emails to that person. Mm-hmm. So there's like this transitive, information leakage that can happen if any party in the communication is running a PC with this feature enabled.
Yes,
it's a freaking nightmare.
It breaks end-to-end encryption for a lot of companies, or a lot of like almost any use case. It breaks end-to-end encryption. Like, I don't know. I think I also will say I want to give credit to the people that figured out how to extract the data from it, because that's really the last step that puts the nail in the coffin for most organizations, either enabling this or even considering purchasing these computers. Because if I, as a threat actor or a fake threat actor, can go on and like, I can keylog and screen record. Both of those things are very high, like, detection ratios from an OPSEC perspective. Like, we used to keylog with Cobalt Strike 10 years ago and it worked great. Nowadays, not so much. But like this, extracting the data, just like, you don't even have to screenshot and wait for them to type something sensitive. You can just run this Total Recall tool, extract every screenshot from their computer, and now you have, how much sensitive data is that going to store? It's going to be for the average accountant, what kind of DLP hits are you going to get in a screenshot for 24 hours of an accountant's job? It's going to be like nothing but sensitive data, account numbers, and all kinds of stuff. I don't know. It's just,
Kevin Beaumont did a lot of that early work on extracting the data, and Grossy the dog. And and now, like, as the news comes out more, the rumors are that Microsoft is considering, like, some sort of legal action against him for publicizing all this stuff. And he's like, bring it, like, come ahead. So.
Yeah, I gotta just imagine the deep guttural sighs that came out of that person's like mouth and body when they were building a tool they're like, Microsoft, are you really going to make me do it again? Again? Like, okay, here we go to Twitter. Like,
speaking of like Kevin Beaumont and his, and his website, the post that has been shared, is a couple of things that I took from it that were lower down to not be glossed over is where it says, prepare for AI-powered super breaches. So just like the credential markets that exist. So that's because Microsoft is going to adjust this recall. It's going to cycle out of the news cycle, but you still have the problems of like the AI-powered super breaches. And then the couple of things that were mentioned beneath that I think Microsoft, taking a step back, is trying to make us forget about the history of these additional questions that were on there. Like, did Microsoft mislead the BBC about the security of Copilot? Yes. Like, Microsoft misled about security. Did they mislead customers about the security of Copilot? Also, yes. So bottom line, you have like right in that like one page, you have AI-powered super breaches and Microsoft misleading the news about security, misleading the customers about security. Like, those are three things to take away from this story and not forget about.
I don't know if that's just a great marketing term that's going to be thrown everywhere now, or actually something to be scared about, right?
I'm already scared of it. I just had AI generated. I just had an AI generated image of it, and it's terrifying.
It must be said that there is a market for this, right? There are employers who were absolutely salivating about this functionality becoming available so that they can monitor their employees' behavior. So, and we know this to be a fact because there's existing stalkerware applications that do pretty much the same thing that are already being deployed by said employers. So this is just a way of bundling, third-party software functionality that's already in use into the operating system.
Most DLP tools might as well be stalkerware, to tell you the truth. Like they're pretty high functioning, get everything even in their clipboard type of stuff.
Well, and it surprises me, and I've said it I don't know how many times, when people say, well, what I'm doing on the computer at work, I mean, don't I have any privacy? It's like, no, is it your computer? It's their computer. You have no privacy rights because it's their equipment, their network.
That's definitely a cultural thing too, though. That's only like in the US. If you've ever worked with international, like that's not the mindset of people in Europe, especially I believe in GDPR. Like I think I've said this on the news before. If they have a folder labeled personal on their computer, you are not allowed to go into it unless like there is a security alert that tells you that there's something in there that you need to see. But
same with the homework folder. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm also like, we were talking about the info stealer thing. Like, imagine the exposure for people that work for multiple companies. Like, exactly. I mean, I was us.
Gonna get into that.
I mean, we're a great example. Like, the average BHIS employee works on 20 to 50 customers a year, and like we try to we have rules and like how we do data segmentation. We use isolated VMs and all that stuff, but like, if your VM has a built-in keylogger and you have to, like, I guess, I don't know if it even works in VMs and blah, 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 but like, it's just, it's like adding to the list of things that as a mildly security and privacy conscious person would just make me never purchase a Windows computer, right? Like there's telemetry, there's, ads in the start menu and creepy things that Microsoft already does. Then you add Copilot Plus on it and you're just like, oof, no.
Yeah, and Corey, you don't even have to work for multiple companies. Like one of the things that concerns me is, when you say like it's the company machine and all the data that is on it or goes through it is the company's. Not so when it comes to like webinars or screen sharing, or you're working with a vendor and that you're on a video call with that vendor, they're screen sharing with you. You're now taking, screenshots of everything that they are showing.
Right. Are you under NDA?
Are you under NDA? So now, like, if I was, if I was on a screen share with BHIS working with them and Corey had something up that he was showing that now my BC gets breached and BHIS gets compromised because of my lack of security controls going, wait, there was something that was accidentally exposed in the screen share that got wound up in a screenshot. Like, how did you could be an institution going like, how did our credentials get compromised by this other third-party company? Like, how did they have like our username and passwords for this? It's like, oh, it's because you were screen sharing and it was in there for like half a second but got captured by recall.
Totally.
And they're able to bring that up.
Yeah.
I see people in the chat doing saying, oh, everybody should use Linux, blah blah blah. Hey folks, you might want to take a look at PAM TTY Audit, which is a built-in keystroke logging functionality in the Linux operating system, and you don't get to turn it off, right? Like there's no way to extract it from the OS. So so it's not just Microsoft. Like, this functionality is present and can be activated in at least from a keystroke logging perspective in the Linux OS as well. So
yeah, I mean, I will say I hope that the technology to analyze a bunch of screenshots and turn them into something useful ends up getting open sourced or like put APIs for Microsoft, because that's a pen test report waiting to happen right there. Like if you take if I tell you, look at these 5,000 screenshots and tell me, like where was the image of WordPress? Like find me WordPress. That like would be actually really popular or powerful, like if it was secure, because I mean, again, like you can't deny the awesome productivity boost of a tool like this. It's just the privacy thing is like makes it untenable, but the ability to read a bunch of screenshots and find stuff, it actually would be really cool. So I hope that like the concept gets distilled down into more of a user guided, like you turn it on at a certain time or you give it screenshots that you already took, or however it can be made to be more secure and privacy focused, I think it could be really cool, actually. So
Corey,
hope it doesn't die completely.
Corey, you have seen the demos of people using ChatGPT to get past the text recognition thing. You know how
Like CAPTCHAs?
Yeah, you can have ChatGPT read a CAPTCHA and tell you what
I
the
see.
characters are.
Huh.
It's not
Yeah,
very
I
good
mean-
at getting out watermarks, though. I tried yesterday. It's just fudged up my whole image. Freaking
Well,
Zoo
there's-
that wants $30 for a photo of me. Screw you guys.
There's some things where you still need Photoshop.
Or
Yeah,
with,
alright.
you can build ChatGPT, and this is a reference to like Wade reading Damon. You can have ChatGPT like just post an ad on Fiverr to have somebody else solve that for you.
That is a good point. Maybe I should do that.
Oh God. All right, let's talk about TikTok 0 days. Who's in for that? Anyone?
Oh,
Apparently, there's a
my.
TikTok 0 day. I can't see the article because I don't pay for Forbes. Can anyone
Neither can I. No, none of us know.
All right.
Ryan pays for Forbes. Look at him.
Ryan pays for Forbes.
Ryan,
right,
extract
Ryan.
wisdom on that news article. for
Read us
real quick.
the extract wisdom quick. Load
Oh,
up.
never mind.
Oh,
nope, Ryan doesn't pay for
no!
Forbes either.
Oh,
So what? You're not a high roller? You got to pay for Forbes, man.
That's
All
all
right,
right.
no. Okay, so there's got to be a non-paywalled source for this.
Hey, come on. Isn't that what dev tools are for?
Some
Well, he's
way-
in
way
Reader
back
View, which
machine.
is a fun little
It's
bypass. But
Yeah, it's kind of a hack beyond the paywall thing.
But you have to
is
use
reader mode.
Safari, so for most people, it's going to be a hard pass. Yeah, so I guess basically it appears that this is a 0-day vulnerability being transmitted through TikTok DMs. Doesn't require download, click, anything. They just have to open the message. I guess the most surprising part of this so far is that a huge account like Paris Hilton would open a DM. That's maybe will give people some kind of feeling of
Some
sadness.
fishing in there, brand dealing or something. like
True,
that,
probably
you know,
true.
like-
Especially because they like
it's
you
their
know,
assistant, it's not her too. That's the other probably thing, right?
well, you hit one big account and then like, you know, Trump sends you a DM and you're gonna
Oh
answer,
yeah, okay,
right?
no, that's
Like,
a good point.
You hit
yeah.
one account that has billions of followers and then
It's
you
the
use that.
BEC of DMs, is what you're saying.
It's the BEC of DMs. Yeah. So I mean, I guess I'm kind of I don't know what like does anyone know the technical details, but like is it like an in-app exploit?
Oh, there we go.
Oh, here we go. A non-paywalled source. Woo. Yeah. So, I guess it's like it has been patched by TikTok already.
Didn't they say something about like they banned the person who found it or something? I swear, like that.
Oh, that's going to be effective. Yeah.
I'm sure they said a lot of things about the person who found it.
This isn't the first vulnerability that's impacted TikTok users in the recent years.
I mean, I guess I'm kind of amazed at like the. I maybe I just wasn't on my radar, but this is kind of crazy for me to think about, like an in-app exploit that uses the app to actually exploit the vulnerability. It's like it's not really an Android exploit, right? It's actually specifically for TikTok's app. It's probably a web app thing behind the scenes, right? But yeah, I mean, it's probably some API or something like that. But
Let me talk about more dystopian.
yeah, let's go back to
Government watching it.
dystopia.
All right, so
Take
I
us
got
back.
Who was it?
Hit the link. Hit the link I sent, Ryan.
The link.
It's in the chat. So
Pull that
this hits close to home, right? We talk about dystopian stuff, so I thought this belonged in here. A local police department that lives right on the border, Chula Vista, they're in San Diego, has what's called let me see, I think it's a DFR program, drone first responder program. So pretty much they launch drones from the roof of their police department and instantly go to calls. So they use it for anything for domestic violence, homeless calls, any type of car crashes, and a drone will show up first and give first responders eyes right off the bat. So the scary part about this is these drones actually have the rights to fly in any airspace that is around San Diego, or at least around in their department. And a lot of people are scared that when one of these drones flies over, they're going to be able to see stuff that's going on in other things. And there's already reports that drones have seen people in intimate acts as they're flying through space. So it's a pretty interesting one. It's definitely getting in there to the dystopian future of cops being able to respond within minutes or within seconds, right? Launching one of these up. And the drones are actually pretty cool, to tell you the truth.
Wait until they're armed.
Oh, I know, right?
Well, they already are.
They're
not here.
Well, they could hurt if they
could
hit
hurt
you,
if
I
they
consider
fall.
them armed.
Right? If you scroll down in the news article, Ryan, there's actually an image of where all the drones go. They actually released the data publicly of where the drone flight paths are and some images of like where they're mostly shown, but they do not release the videos that the drones actually take. There's a actual lawsuit going on right now for them to release that data.
I'm sure there's no concerns with abuse of power here. I mean,
Well, and I'm sure there's no
Oh,
racial
no.
component either about where they fly
no.
these drones either.
we
you
know that
None
from
whatsoever,
we know
right?
from history that law enforcement will always use sensitive data in a very restrained and fair and equitable manner.
Yeah,
Control
no doubt.
Control F for lasers, Ryan.
Control F for laser. I mean, can you imagine you get into a car accident?
No,
and you're
no,
just
no.
like,
Here. This is the best quote. One Westside Chula Vista resident showed Wired a series of cell phone videos he recorded from drones passing by his home or flying over his car while he was driving at night. He's convinced that the drones fired laser beams through his bathroom window to intimidate him and spy on his family because he belongs to the city's lowrider community. Wired could not find evidence that the CVPD drones are equipped with lasers. The department did not answer detailed questions.
No, that's the snipers across the street who are
So
targeting
that
them on
definitely
toilets.
means they didn't deny it. Those drones definitely have lasers. That's all I'm saying.
I just want a drone with a frickin' laser.
I can already imagine like the SNL sketch of like you're being arrested by a drone that just like crashes on the street to arrest you. Put one hand behind your back. Oh, in a tree. Oh crap. Yeah.
These aren't small drones either. These are some pretty big ones. So,
Of course.
Wow.
but
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just like, who signed off on this? The concept, like, how is a drone going to be helpful? What I guess the only thing it does is it prevents someone from being hurt.
so there's
Unlimited surveillance.
in this article, there's actually a very good description on when they use it for like looking at car crashes or trying to get so the police just have eyes on the situation before they get there. And one of the arguments for it is that recently there was a man going through a psychotic episode or having an issue, and instead of the cops immediately got there and just shot him. So
But with the drones, they can just immediately run into them.
yeah, they or at least know where he's at, right? And know
yeah.
that what's going on from a better situation.
So they
And
managed
and
to
with the
market
right
this
drone,
as
they could just
reducing.
drop a Hellfire missile on him and save a bullet, right?
Can you imagine being like, okay, this is pretty funny though, because they're kind of saying the quiet part out loud. They're basically being like, we can't trust our officers, but we can trust our drone pilots.
Oh my god, that is definitely the under theme that I've picked up from
Like
that entire.
they're basically
article.
saying,
So-
like, if we send cops in, they'll just shoot them. But if we send drones in, they won't do anything.
Well,
they
no,
can't
no,
turn off
they're-
the drone's body cam when stuff's going wrong, right?
They're selling it as a first response so that when they actually have humans respond, they're going to be better able to deal with whatever scenario. And I can see that as having value, but the problem is we already have a lot of police departments wanting bigger, badder toys so that they can be even more aggressive paramilitary organizations. And here we're running into a human rights, civil rights issue here. I mean,
Yeah,
I
mean,
see-
and
I
there's
see- I
mission
see
creep
both-
too, right?
yeah. I mean,
I mean, right now they're only launching supposedly only launching these when there's an issue, but eventually it's just going to become, they're just going to be flying standard surveillance patterns over the city, and it just becomes this massive dragnet with no warrant at all.
Don't worry, the AI, the video's all put through Copilot, so it's
Exactly.
totally it's fine. So okay, the other question that I have is the first time that this flies over some either farmer or someone's land and they just shoot it down, are they going to get in trouble? Like,
without a doubt, like they say one of like the busiest flight paths goes right over like a bunch of like a public pool too.
Oh, charming.
Where this is like right along the border, right? So if they got a call close enough to the border and someone in Mexico took a shot at it, I could easily see that happening. But this isn't like the boonies, but in the future, I could easily see someone taking it.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, there's going to be in the near future an example where it crosses into someone's private property, they do something to react to it, and then some court has to sit down and rule on whether cops can just fly their drones wherever they want, or if they have to follow, stay on public roads or whatever, or public land. But I don't know. This is terrifying. It's really dystopian, but I guess at the same time, I'm like, it is still better than getting shot. I'd rather get hit by a drone than shot, but I don't know.
But that's not what the choice is, right? I mean, you're
getting, so you get hit by the drone, then also shot.
No, you get shot by lasers.
Yeah, you get pinpointed by the drone and then shot. I mean, so
the drones are running Linux at least.
Maybe a controversial opinion, but I'll put this one out there, is that it's like I don't like it being in the hands of like a militaristic organization like law enforcement, but thinking through it in my head, like I can, like if for crisis intervention, if there was a crisis intervention organization that was behind this and had the control of it, I can see it having that benefit, particularly in, and this might be like a thing for like the rural area of the Midwest there, is that you have a lot of people that they make the calls because they are going through some sort of mental health crisis, and seconds count. So being able to have, I know a drone might not be the best thing, but being able to have a voice that you can talk back and forth from that is able to arrive there quickly when vehicles or a human cannot, could have benefit. But again,
can you imagine
underneath like a militaristic police organization that
okay,
you're not wrong.
No, and what would be really nice to see, because so many of the actual calls that law enforcement gets have more to do with people having mental health issues, or health issues, physical health issues. If they were able to leverage the drones to more accurately identify, this needs to be not a law enforcement going in with guns and keeping people from doing nasty things to each other or property, but more, this is a person who's in crisis, who needs other kinds of support, that would be a beneficial application. But I don't.
All we got to do.
I haven't seen anything indicating that's what they're planning on doing.
Yeah, no.
All we got to do is get some suicide hotline, the same rights to just fly wherever the heck they want to fly, like
and then the same budget,
or whatever. Like pick your NGO of choice.
Because it totally wouldn't freak out somebody having a mental health crisis for a drone to pop up and start
with flashing blue and red lights. Like I'm the police, the cops are on to me. I'm having a psychotic break. 3 drones fly up with flashing red and blue lights.
Or something.
But. Yeah, I mean you could make it friendlier, but right now, like the alternative is like you just have like the police kicking your door and try to tackle you because
they're just like flashbang,
shooting your dog.
It's like, so the drone is, it's maybe not perfect, but it might be an improvement over the current items.
Yeah. I don't know. Of course, let us know how that goes for you, Chula Vista. Please chime in if you live somewhere where there's just police.
There's no chance at all it could go badly, right?
No. What could go wrong? I will say, though, just all the like funny random scenarios this is going to cause are going to be great fodder for like SNL, us, any other show. Like, I mean, it's going to crash in that public pool. There's going to be some kid that just finds a police drone and then like figures out how to hack it, overwrite the firmware, and just has his own police drone. I don't know. Oh God. Let's close out with a happy article. Who has a fun happy article?
I don't know if there is any happy articles this week.
There could be there's no criminal justice articles. I know.
I was going to talk. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to bring up the whole debacle that's happening over in London with the ransomware.
That doesn't
This
sound
has
happy.
been a developing story over the last week. Synovis, which is the company like LabCorp or Quest here in the United States, it basically handles all the testing and pathology. They got hit with ransomware. They're completely locked out of their systems. Like nothing is working. Hospitals major hospitals in the National Health Service have had to postpone even non-elective surgery. And then the latest, and then there's allegations that it's this Russian ransomware gang, Quillen. And then the latest in the last 24 hours or so, the hospitals are asking medical students to come in and be floor runners and help them move, blood samples and other pathology needs where they need to go and shuttle SneakerNet basically
Unpaid interns.
results around the hospital. So they're because there's no ETA on a fix for the actual computer systems, they're having to fall back to manual methods. And so I'm picturing this army of med students getting a break from their studies so that they can run vials of blood and poo from point A to point B and run the results back to the doctors and things like that.
I didn't even think about the poo, but you are right. Someone's going to be moving samples, so that's a good point.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's
blood poo, and
blood's
other.
the least nasty of the things they're going to be running.
Yeah.
So, wow.
I thought ransomware threat actors were noble and didn't go after healthcare
Oh
organizations.
yeah, no. There's a special place in hell reserved for whoever did this one, because people are actually going to die on this one because they can't get life-saving surgery. This one.
So in the
already.
ransomware section of hell, there's an even special ransomware subsection for ransomware against healthcare section of hell.
Yeah. So this one, it's this developing story, but you're just watching the whole thing kind of spiral. It's really not good.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty bad. That's not uplifting at all, Hal. Why is that?
no, I know, but it's actually one of the more interesting ransomware cases recently. Just the kind of human cost.
All right, Corey, what was your happy case?
Well, I mean, I don't really have a happy case, but I was going to say this justice.gov Epsilon data management. Did anyone see this? So basically, this was announced on Friday or a couple weeks ago, actually, but they've charged, or a jury has found, a former senior executive and former sales manager of a company called Epsilon Data Management guilty of federal criminal charges related to targeting millions of consumers for mass mailing fraud. So they were found guilty, conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud, numerous counts of wire fraud. Basically, they were in a scheme. They sold targeted lists of consumers' data to fraudsters. So essentially, this is I guess, not uplifting because someone's going to jail, but kind of uplifting because someone who profited off of people who profited off of selling our data to fraudsters are actually having some consequences for this. And I feel like this is something we can point to and say, please stop selling our data, or else, I guess, somehow they, I'm actually shocked this is even illegal. By the way, I am surprised that this is not legal, but yeah.
Some of the stuff they did is pretty crazy. Like at trial,
Yes.
elderly victims and their adult children testified about the scam letters that the victims received, falsely promising cash prizes. Evidence showed that these victims were targeted by the fraud by members of the conspiracy. So they didn't just steal data; they stole data to manipulate people. They sold
people's data, and they also participated in the fraud. I guess selling their data is probably fine.
but once you participate in it, you take that one extra step.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So that's good. Someone in chat submitted another uplifting article.
Here we go.
Apparently, the FBI has given away 7,000 ransomware keys. So if you've just been waiting to decrypt your computer for some reason, then here you go. Here's
That's a lot.
possible 7,000 keys. Maybe yours is in there.
Nice.
Let's hope that Synovis's keys are in there.
No, it's an
Wow.
old dump. Sorry.
Yikes.
Whoops.
All right. I just generated a picture of happy kittens in a field.
Okay.
When all else fails, Mid-Journey to the rescue.
Yes. All right. Everyone, just look at that picture. Or I guess does anyone have any final articles? We technically have 4 minutes. We can cover an
wow, we
article
have
in 4
4
minutes.
How about
you
the one
go.
Alex dropped in the chat?
Okay, what did Alex drop?
It better be
Yeah,
uplifting.
Yeah, the FCC okaying the program to bolster school and library cybersecurity. So that could be handy and beneficial for any volunteer defenders. So I know I volunteer for the cyber response team, and a lot of times, libraries and schools, they don't have the funds to properly defend themselves, so they rely upon volunteers. So this additional funds for the toll of the K-12 ransomware attacks.
200 million to schools and libraries.
Wow.
They'll be able to afford one Splunk license.
So this 200,
Oh!
no, the
Ouch.
200 million actually it's interesting. So this is like they're funding research on pilot programs that can sort of give them leverage, right? So it's not that they're just like doling out $200 million to do like point solutions for different schools and libraries. They're encouraging people to come up with solutions that can then be rolled out across the larger community and kind of be a rising tide that lifts all boats. So they're not just frittering away $200 million. They're actually trying to get some additional leverage with that money, which I think is it's a good plan. Because as Alex was saying, I mean that these are organizations that are critically underfunded, but also critical to society. So be good if we can get them some help.
So, okay. I guess I'm like, as long as all this money doesn't just go to some company that's like, we can make a new EDR for students or whatever. Like, let's be real. Based on what it says would ensure investment in sophisticated endpoint protection, identity authentication, and firewall systems. We already have all those things. Schools just can't afford them. So I don't like. I'm curious.
Right. I think they're hoping for solutions to come out of the community of schools and libraries, like to find best practices and maybe dust them up a little bit.
I think a standard template kind of thing for like, are you a K through 12? Here's what you should do. Here's how you should do it. I mean, I'm sure most of the money will go to vendors because that's who makes these kinds of products. But talking about libraries, we got to go back to the Copilot thing. Can you imagine the horrors of a Copilot Plus computer at a library? Like, can you imagine what would it find? I don't even want to know. Like, it would be like your Copilot Plus has been disabled due to repeated infractions, or I don't know. Who knows?
No, I mean it would find unhoused people trying to get jobs and line up places to live and all of the good work that libraries do, right? I mean,
I know a couple
or
people.
to take another case that was brought up earlier, people who are in abusive relationships looking for a way out, and they can't use the computer at home, but they can use the one at the library. So libraries are not for porn, right? Libraries perform an important public service, and the fact that libraries are being attacked and defunded left and right, it leaves a huge gaping hole in our societal safety net.
Well, why read books when you can just go on TikTok? I don't get it.
Yeah.
You can rent a lot of stuff at libraries nowadays. Like
that's
amazing.
True. You can rent like
right?
3D printers and that's
farm
very
equipment and like whole video games. Like I'm
sorry, farm equipment?
Yeah.
Please elaborate.
Like hardware, like you name it, like stuff to like do your own garden, like actual like hose and rakes and that type of stuff. Like it's kind of I'm farm equipment. I'm not saying like a $2 million John Deere tractor, but
that's what I was hoping for.
What's also so I have a couple buddies who have been sysadmins for schools, and it's always like a horror story. And one of the things that like sticks in my mind is that they were rolling out MFA, and a majority of their teachers didn't even have smartphones, so they couldn't like So they were trying to do token
COTP, or I
based.
mean,
Wow.
They had to-
YubiKeys. You got to
they-
have YubiKeys.
So that was their only option, was to go YubiKey, and then of course like teachers are using them left and right. It was I felt really bad for that guy.
Yeah. No class today because I can't find my YubiKey. All right.
And the dog says it's time for the episode to be over.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening.
Sorry.
I guess we're sponsored by Black Hills Information Security. We do things and stuff. Go to our website, join our Discord.
Incident Response Summit in a week,
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah.
If you're there,
Wow.
there's training and classes and cool stuff.
Yeah, I
Come.
believe in-person reg for Wild West Hackenfest Deadwood is almost sold out. So
Oof.
if you're looking to go to Wild West Hackenfest, book now. So
I need to get
Yeah.
my
And don't forget to book your hotel and
Yeah,
flight
that's-
too.
I need to get my
Yes.
flight soon.
only
big
so
town.
many people can sleep in John Strand's garage.
Exactly.
His barn though. You know how many people can sleep in that barn?
That's where the whole company's staying. No, I'm just kidding.
No, no, no.
We're not a cult. All right. Anyway, see you all next week.
Much.
See ya.